my fellow dorks? It is the Turtle Dork here with a new review for you today. So, unfortunately, Disco isn't with me to review Chapter 6 of The Mandalorian. This episode was called The Prisoner. So, I'm going to give you a kind of quick solo review, which is actually a little good, because normally when we do these reviews, we do it right after we watch the episode, and sometimes getting that initial reaction, that initial review, don't really have time to sit with the show for a while. So I'm recording this a little bit later, so I've been able to kind of sit with the show. I already edited the reaction, so I was able to kind of go back and look at the episode a little bit more, even though I did have some of my critiques and some of my issues that I did have with this particular episode, even though I thought it was a lot of fun. It's a lot of cameos that we get in this episode. Of course, we knew that Bill Burr was going to be in one of the episodes, and it looks like this was the one that he was in. And he plays one of the mercenaries. Basically, the setup of this particular episode is that Mando is meeting back up with some old friends, some old mercenary friends, and he's being recruited to do a job where they have to kind of go onto this New Republic like prisoner ship, where they have to extract one of their own to get who's a prisoner on the ship. So they bring in like this group of mercenaries, which is kind of like this band of misfits. And it's interesting because I even mentioned on the reaction that it feels like, and we've seen this throughout the series so far, that the show is really kind of I don't want to say recycling, but they're using a lot of really traditional classic movie and story tropes that we've seen in other classical films, whether it be something like Lone Wolf and Cub, Seven Samurai, different things like that. You know, it's the constant debate that we're seeing online as far as samurai show, western show. I'm not getting into any of that stuff, but it also feels like we're kind of getting a little bit of that in this particular episode as well, which again is not a bad thing, but I'm noticing a pattern, and we'll get a little bit more into that. We'll talk about a little bit as far as like whether the show is, these last few episodes feeling standalone. But before we get to that, like I was saying, the cameo. So Bill Burr is in this, Clancy Brown is in this. Those are only really the two that I recognized from this particular episode. I know there's probably some other cameos of maybe some people that I'm not that familiar with, but yeah, this one was loaded with that. But yeah, so we get that setup, and I liked a lot of it, but one of my biggest complaints was, I think, was the characterization, was the performances from a lot of these actors that were in this particular episode. Some of the scripting, the way it was written, like when you finally get onto the New Republic ship, and a lot of the banter that you hear between the mercenaries, it really feels like the script is wanting you to kind of buy into the fact that there's this kind of chemistry between the four of them. Well, there's five. The droid is on the ship. He's the one that's kind of giving them some of the letting them know like where they need to go, and if there's droids, because this ship is just occupied by droids. So he's kind of on the ship leading the way to the prisoner. But so the four of them together, it just doesn't, I don't feel the chemistry, because I just don't think the dialogue and the scripting is that strong in this particular episode. But even with all that being said, I had a lot of fun with the second half of this episode. It's when you're on that ship, and like I was saying before in the reaction, I like the construction of the episode. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to see Mando fighting a lot of these different droids, to see where the episode goes and some of the different turns that the episode makes and stuff like that. But so I don't know, I'm a little conflicted, because there's a lot that I'm just like, ooh, but then there's also a lot that I really, really enjoyed about the episode as well. So all in all, it was kind of middle of the road, but really from what we've seen in the last two episodes, it just felt like we were kind of deviating away from something that was, I think, strongly established in those first three episodes, which felt like we had some type of story arc and we were going somewhere with, as far as with the character of Baby Yoda and Mando, and what it means for him to turn against the guild to save this baby, and where is that going. So after chapter 3, we're kind of getting some of these standalone type episodes where it doesn't feel like it's connective, and that's cool if you're doing something that's episodic. But with 8 episodes in the entire season, there's no clear vision, at least from our standpoint. Now, from the creators, of course, they know where everything is going, and that's why I'm not really going to be, I'm not going to really harp on that too much, because we haven't seen the last 2 episodes, so we don't know where this is going. We don't know if this season is going to wrap up everything, or if there's going to be a cliffhanger, or if these characters are going to carry over into season 2, which we know we are getting to season 2. But it's even though now it does feel like what we've gotten in the last 3 chapters has felt more episodic. I don't want to say that I feel better about it, even though I did like this particular chapter a little bit better than the other 2. But again, and I've said this to Disco as well, it's like I think we're just in that stage where we just have to kind of wait and see. With 2 episodes left, we'll be able to kind of form a collective opinion, or have a more well-rounded opinion as far as this whole season goes, once we see these last 2 chapters that they have for season 1. And like I said, I kind of mentioned it briefly in my reaction, I really want to see what Taika is going to do with this particular season finale. I know Deborah Chow is directing next week, the penultimate episode, so we'll see where that leads to going into the season finale, because there's a lot of threads that it feels like are going to come back. I do believe Gina Carano is going to come back in one of these last 2 chapters, and the way that last week's episode ended, with that mysterious character and Ming-Na Wen with her character, it seems like that they'll be coming back in some way, shape, or form. Don't know how, but that felt like a cliffhanger as well. So again, don't know where it's leading, but again, I'm on with the journey. But it did kind of feel like the show was getting on some shaky ground a little bit. I didn't know how I was feeling coming off of last week's episode, but even though now I'm saying that, okay, everything feels like it's standalone, but it still feels like it's kind of it's progressively moving towards something. But what that is, we don't know, and where that leads into season 2, we don't know. I hope a lot of this. I hope some of this story does carry over into season 2. It would be nice if they did have like this overarching arc that they have. For Baby Yoda, for Mando, for his particular character, and the journey of his character, because there's a lot of stuff that they introduced early on in the season, especially with his character as a child, with a lot of the flashbacks. I want to see how we're going to bring that back and kind of, continue to tell that story, because those were the things that were really intriguing me about the series, about this season, was learning a little bit more about the Mandalorian, and where he comes from, what's his motivations, like all those different things like that. Those were some of the things that they introduced early on that really got me intrigued. So definitely looking forward. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more with these last 2, but we'll see. But yeah, I really dug this episode. Baby Yoda, I love Baby Yoda in this episode, man. the droid Zero on the ship, and I was hoping that he would try to use the Force, which is something interesting too, because it feels like this was directed by Rick Famuyiwa, and he has a cameo along with what I noticed was Dave Filoni and Deborah Chow. I was thinking that was them as well, but I did notice that they were they were some of the X-Wing pilots at the end of the episode as well. But yeah, Baby Yoda, I like to see him get more into the action. I thought that was really cool. And it feels like Rick Famuyiwa, it seems like it was the only director that has really utilized Baby Yoda in that way. We really haven't seen Baby Yoda do much except for chapters 2 and chapter 6, both directed by Rick Famuyiwa. And that's what I want to see a little bit more of, knowing that that he can be used in that way and not just, you know, this cute cuddly little thing that the internet is just smitten over. That, you know, that he can really be a character that that can do shit. Basically, he can do shit. So let's see him do some shit. But yeah, so I like seeing that. And he had that little moment where he thought his Force powers, you know, did something that he didn't know it could do. But you know, it was Mando who shot Zero. Spoiler alert. Anyway, yeah, those are, I guess, some of my thoughts of this particular chapter 6 called The Prisoner. So let me know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Remember to rate, like, subscribe, and share. And go to check out my other dorks at MouthDork, at TheDiscoDork, at WB Dash, and at Sidewalk Siren. And as for me, I am the Turtle Dork. And with that, I'm out.